Hello, and welcome to the last of the practices with myself. I hope that you've had an opportunity to do some or all of the other 6. This one's unique in that it's going to be moving of all of your joints in, I hope, a unique way. And you can either do it lying down on the ground or you can do it seated on a chair as you wish. Lying on the ground will give you more mobility though, and you do need to make alterations if you're sitting on a chair rather than me constantly changing the language. So you'll need to take what I've said and modify it on your own to being in a chair. Okay? I recommend that not only do you have the space equivalent to a yoga mat, but that like a snow angel where you would draw your arms all the way out and overhead, you have space to do that. And the same with your feet to draw away from the mat. Okay? So with that in mind, we're going to begin. Go ahead. I'm assuming that you're lying down, but you might be sitting in a chair. And just start to notice yourself breathing. We're not going to do anything purposely to control the breath here, or I'm not going to guide you to do that. Feel free to use breath practices if you like. But just feel yourself breathing. And go ahead and float your attention down to your toes. How much time do you spend with your toes? Really? So your toes, as you, I'm sure, know, can bend or straighten. That is because they're connected by something we call a hinge joint. And like a door, they can either bend or they can open. So go ahead and do that. You might want to try and do individual toes at a time, but that's tricky. Not everyone can do that. Certainly I cannot. You might want to bend the toes on one foot and then the toes on the other or together. You might even want to go really quickly bending and straightening your toes, or very slowly and mindfully. Just allow yourself to move your toes. The movement of different joints of your body brings fresh oxygen, red blood cells, allows any debris to be moved out. It's healthy, right? And often in our modern life, we move our bodies in just one way or the other, and we don't get that full range of motion. Right, so it is really nice to move each part. And I also invite you, right, your toes have webbing. If you want to draw your toes away from each other as much as you can, go ahead. My pinky toe moves freakishly away from the other toes, while as the rest of them stay together like a block. And again, we're all unique in yoga, so just see what happens. And then go ahead and let your toes just be still and sense into how they feel. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of heat, lightness, or something else. Just notice. And then it's time to come up to another joint. We call that the ankle joint, the condyloid joint of the ankle. A condyloid joint has more movement than a hinge joint. In fact, as you'll notice, as you're possibly already moving your ankles, they can make almost entire circles, but not true ones. If you are making what seems like a circle, you're using a little bit of your knee joint and a little bit of your hip. Go ahead. You can use your ankle joints to point your feet. You can flex your toes towards your nose. You can wave your ankles out to the side and back together. You can make circles. You can even draw the soles of your feet towards each other and then away. There's a lot of possibility in a condyloid joint. Right? And when we walk, we tend not to give the ankles their full rate of rotation, or range rather. So it's really good to allow them to have this. This supports balance in early life and certainly in later life. And I want you to know as well that if at any time you don't want to move something and you're like, actually the most relaxing aspect would be to sit here and just listen or imagine myself moving. Do that as well. It's your body, and you're exploring and moving it as you see fit. Okay. And we're slowly going to come to stillness in the ankles. And again, just notice how they feel. after moving? How do your ankles feel? How do your ankles feel? And let's float our attention up to the next joint, the knees. And that is, by and large, we call it a hinge joint. There's a little bit of mobility side to side, but we don't really want to use that. It can be damaging to the knees. So let's just think of it as the ability to bend and to stretch. So there's lots of options here. You might want to draw your legs into the air and bend your knees and straighten them, right? Don't bicycle, because that'll be moving your hips too. We just want to focus on the knees. They deserve our full attention. You might want to drag both of your heels together on the floor, bending the knees towards the bottom and straightening them again, or one at a time. You might want to move your knees quickly or slowly, but the knees take the weight of a lot of your body, and they hold it. And it's so nice for them to get to move in this kind of weightless form. It's healthy for your knees. It's really healthy for your knees. And of course, if there are any injuries in your body where moving is not appropriate, then don't do so. It's your body. It's your choice. And it is incumbent upon you to take care of your health and well-being, especially because I'm not there with you in the room as much as I'd like to be. Well, I'm there, but you know what I mean. I'm not physically there. And let the knees come to stillness. How do the knees feel? Are they warmer, cooler? Do you feel a pulsation because of the movement of oxygen and blood flow? You're not really sure about your relationship with your knees and just trying to figure it out? Or did you opt not to move them? All of that's fine. Just know. And we now float our attention up to a joint that has the greatest mobility of kinds of joints, and that is a ball and socket joint. We have that at the hips, which means although hips can get very tight and we have connective tissue supporting the insertion of the leg bones into the hip area that make it feel like it's tight, they have lots of options. And just start exploring. You can make circles with your legs with knees bent or straight. You can draw your legs apart or together. You can kick towards the ceiling. You can draw one leg away, making a circle where the other is straight. Right? Try not to use the knees while you're doing this, or the lower back, because the hips deserve their due attention, just moving on their own. So just the hips. You can even choose to stay static, like draw your legs out to the side, maybe with the knees bent. In yoga, we call that Baddha Konasana. And if you're lying down, that's a supine version of it, right? So you're lying down supine Baddha Konasana. You can stay still, or again, you can be moving lots. Your hips, right? And you move them how you want to move them. As we age, especially us women, if we don't have a lot of movement in different directions of the hips, they become more vulnerable. And so in the sheer interest of health, we definitely want to move our amazing hips. Move in the hips. Just another 30 seconds to move the hips. And, at any time you can pause me if you're like, those hips want 5 minutes of movement, Heather. Not 2. Pause, move, and then start again when you're ready. Lovely. And now go ahead, and for the next minute, go ahead and move the whole lower body. Try to keep the back out of it, right? Just the hips, the knees, the ankles, the toes, right? You can come up some weird concoctions if you want. You can hold different positions, but you can move the whole lower body as you would like to, as you see fit, or of course, not at all. Okay. And let the lower body rest. And let's move up to the back. So the back is made of a unique kind of joint, only found in the back, or the spine more specifically, called vertebrae. That's the individuals of vertebrae. And we have three kinds of vertebrae, right? The vertebrae in the lower back, which we're going to focus on now, are called lumbar vertebrae. And they take the greatest weight of the body. They're chunkier, right? And often when we have issues, we have it in the lumbar vertebrae. If you do have issues in your lumbar vertebrae, please move with caution and within any guidelines that you've been given from a health professional. But some of the things you can do with your lower vertebrae might be having the knees bent with the soles of the feet on the floor and just rolling the lower back off the floor and back on. You can let the knees move from side to side. That allows for twist. And there's even this ability to move them a little bit side to side, right? So they have quite a bit of possibility, right? They can undulate, coming up and down. They can twist, and they can move, flexing side to side. Allow your lower back without any weight to benefit from this by doing so. Give those nice big joints an opportunity to move, to explore. And now come to stillness. And we move up to the next joints in the spine. Those are the thoracic vertebrae. Now, the thoracic region of the spine connects to the rib cage, and the rib cage protects the heart and the lungs, vital organs. When there's a lot of stability, it often is at the expense of mobility. The body works like that. It's interesting. So the thoracic spine has the least ability to move and flex of all of the parts of the back. Go ahead and try. It's very hard to do it without also moving the lower back, but you can go ahead and twist from side to side, sensing the difference in the twist in the middle back than in the lower. And the same is true drawing it up off the floor or away from a chair and back to it. That this specific part of the back has less mobility because it's doing the fantastic work of protecting your lungs and your heart. Moving the back, exploring its potential. You might even want to sit up to do this. You can. I personally like doing it lying down, but sitting up, not even in a chair, but just sitting up, you might feel you have more mobility. Up to you. But whatever you're doing, letting it come to a close as you allow yourself to feel the benefit or the change of having moved the thoracic vertebrae. And now up we go to the top of the spine, the cervical vertebrae. These are little. These are the ones that are in the neck. And we have a lot of mobility here. You'll definitely get more capacity for movement if you are sitting upright here. And I want to ask that the actions that you take with this part of the spine are slow because these are very delicate and you don't want to do any harm to these vertebrae. So you can do a whole bunch of things, right? You can move side to side, you can twist, you can draw your chin to your chest, you can draw your chin diagonally to the other side of the chest, you can draw one ear towards your shoulder, stretching that way, you can look up. I ask that you don't just let the head kind of fall back in between the shoulder blades. That's not good for those vertebrae. Just explore, and moving slowly is so important here. Right? They're delicate. There are a lot of fluids moving around here, a lot of special nerves we call cranial nerves. We want to protect all of that anatomical architecture. And gently and slowly come into stillness. See how the neck feels after having moved it. And I'm going to give you a minute to move the whole of the back as however you'd like. It might be yoga positions. It might be no movement. It might be just kind of exploratory without a rhyme or reason that you have clearly in your mind set out. But go ahead and just move the back for the next minute. And now, go ahead and bring your back to stillness and float your attention to your fingers. So your fingers, like your toes, are hinge joints, so you can straighten them and you can bend them. And at the webbing part as well, you can draw them away from each other. Because they're longer, you can do more actions with them. So you might just want to open and shut your hands, play the air piano. You might want to use your fingers, interlacing them together to stretch them. You might want to bend one at a time. It's up to you. In the modern world, many of us spend a lot of time on keyboards. That might not be you. But the fingers are often moving in one direction, which is not very healthy for them, and stretching them and playing around with them, allowing a fresh supply of oxygen as well and red blood cells. That's really healthy. So do give your hands the attention that they so deserve. That's Farrelly's, right, on the air piano. Or like that children's song, Open, Shut Them, which I know they played in my nursery school. Right. Whatever works for you or doesn't. And then let your fingers have a rest. And we're moving up to the wrists. And you guessed it, condyloid joint, just like in your ankles, right? So there's similarities in how the body has built its anatomical architecture. And you can seemingly make circles here, but again, you are actually moving a little bit of your shoulders and of your elbows in order to do that. So it's not true circles. And you can do lots of things, right? You can use one hand to pull the other one back, stretching into your I was going to say your ankles, into your wrists. You can make circles. You can draw your hands in towards the palms, making circles like that or wide open. You can wave hello. You can wave hello like the queen, right? You can do lots of different things. You can even interlace your fingers and make circles together with your wrists, which I really like to do. There's so many options, but go ahead and move your wrists, because again, when we are on keyboards in modern life, they tend to just be sitting like this, or if you can't see, don't open your eyes, just like hanging out there while the fingers are doing little actions. And that's not healthy, right? We want to bring them through their range of movement. right? Generally, what we do is we overuse part of a range of movement of joints and we underuse other parts. And pain arises over time. And it doesn't need to. We can just do something like this a few times a week and reset ourselves. We can also avoid repetitive motions if possible. All right. Say thank you to your wrists for all they do. And then just release any movement, noticing any changes in your wrists, sensations. And now we come to the elbows, a hinge joint like the knees, and they either straighten or they bend. And you can do one at a time, both together, fast or slow, moving the elbows, right, in a weightless way. Try not to get the shoulders involved, so it's just the elbows moving. Lying down and having the elbows resting on the ground does definitely allow that to happen most easily, but it's up to you. Again, it's your body, your choices, how you move your elbows. Okay. And allowing the elbows to come to stillness. And now we move up to another joint, a ball and socket joint, just like at the hips. But this one has the greatest mobility of all the joints in the body. Of course, yours might be stiff, so you might not feel that. But in terms of just the anatomical positioning, because it's not tightly locked like you have in the hips, the shoulders have the greatest capacity for mobility. And I just want you to have fun with that. If you do sit up, you'll have more options. Feel free to lie down, but you can lift your shoulders towards your ears. You can lift one arm up and then the other arm up. You can swim, right? You can take the breaststroke, the crawl, freestyle, the backstroke. You can draw your arms behind your back, interlacing your hands, stretching that way, or forward. You can draw one arm across your chest, stretching into the shoulders. You can make circles. I mean, I could keep going, right, with this litany of different things. The point is, there's a lot of possibility here. And I just want you to be interested in exploring how your shoulders can move. And if there is pain, move slowly, gently. Don't push yourself. Feel free to hold positions. You don't have to be in motion. Just explore with interest the capacity of your shoulders to move. And they do get tight in the modern world. Somebody said to me, a lot of us wear our shoulders as earrings, and shoulders aren't jewelry, so bring them down. It kind of makes me smile, right? Of course, when I have tight shoulders, which I do sometimes, it doesn't sound very funny, but it's something to remind ourselves of. Right? We want to keep them light, easy breezy, and that does require motion. It also requires noticing when we're lifting them up towards the ears in daily life and rolling them back and down, maybe doing some deep breathing and calming ourselves. Shoulders lifted up, what we do when we're stressed or at a computer all day typing. Can I give you just a few more moments with the shoulders? You can stop this at any time if you're like, my shoulders need 10 minutes to stretch. But otherwise, we'll be moving on in just a moment. And just sense into how the shoulders feel after having moved them in all these different ways, or maybe in no way at all, or only one. And we're going to come to our last joint, the mandible. That's the jaw. I've been moving it the whole time while you've been moving the rest of your body, right? We can get a lot of tension in the jaw. You might even want to massage it over at the sides, or you can open your mouth really wide. You can move your jaw side to side. If I do that while talking, it's going to sound very funny, or you can do it, right? You can make little sounds or sing. Just have fun with it. Move your jaw. Maybe you want to yawn a little bit. It moves like that. Even when you pretend to yawn, you suddenly go into a real one. Your jaw, if you're a talker like me, is constantly moving, right? So give it an opportunity to move in other ways. Rest through doing so. And now, let the jaw also be still. The body be still for a moment. And for the next 2 minutes, I'm going to invite you to move or not move in absolutely any way you'd like. It might mean you're standing up on a yoga mat or a carpet or wherever you are. It might mean that you're doing yoga postures, dancing around, doing the tango alone, the cha-cha, breakdancing, waltzing, simply moving a toe, right? For the next 2 minutes, just moving your body or not moving your body, however you'd like to. Really sense into the feeling of movement. And if you can, enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying, at least be interested. Interest is often enough. We're just moving to the end of this. So letting yourself know. And of course, you can pause me again and continue to move for as long as you want. It's your practice and your body, but we are going to be coming to the end of this movement portion. Just a few seconds. I personally like to slow down my movements when that's happening. And allow yourself to rest. And you can remain in this rest, feeling your breath for as long as you'd like, coming up when you feel ready, and then moving through your day or the next section of the conference. Whether you did just today with me or all 7 days or some of them, thank you so much for taking part in these yoga sessions, or this one was like a body scanning yoga session. I hope this has been helpful to you. And again, if you want more information about anything I do, I am the owner of the Minded Institute. You can look up the Minded Institute. And I wish you great wellness. Take care.